So today we'll be working on something pretty cool, a gadget that makes van life just a little bit easier. Basically, it's a magic box that switches your van from battery power to shore power automatically. No more fiddling around with expensive high amperage switches, just plug in and let the box do its thing. And hey, it's not just about laziness. This thing even separates loads you don't want to run from your house battery, so it knows when you are connected to shore power and when you're not. So it doesn't create a cyclical draw running your battery charger when you run your inverter off your batteries. How does it all work? Well, you'll just have to stick around and find out. Spoiler alert, it's not actually magic, but it sure does feel pretty darn close. For the electrical nerds out there, let's go over the schematics first so you can take off and go build your own. Watching me DIY this thing will likely drive you nuts as you shout at the screen about what I'm doing wrong. These next few minutes will give you the meat and potatoes, so anyone who wants to skip the nerd session and get to the DIY part, you can skip ahead to the 5-minute and 45-second mark. For those of you that are less technical, the item you see in the center is the relay. It's a double-pole, double-throw relay rated for 120 volts to a maximum of 40 amps, and at $50 on Amazon, it's cheaper than a day at the spa. They also make a 240-volt version, so be sure to get the right one for your build. Double pole, double throw means that it has two built-in switches, each with two positions, normally opened and normally closed, indicated by 234 on the left, which will be switching the hot line, and 567 on the right, which will be switching the neutral line. There are a total of 8 connections on this relay, but the two that we haven't touched on yet are 1 and 8, which energize the magnetic coil triggering the switches. This coil is rated for 120 volts AC, which is good because that's what we're going to use to trigger it. 4 and 5 are the normally open sides of the relay. You can tell because the switch connections, 3 and 6, have a little line that points away from them. That makes 2 and 7 the normally closed connections. So when the relay isn't energized, it's relaxed, chilling with the switch leads from 3 and 6, leaning on 2 and 7. Next we have 4 AC connection points, with black being hot, white being neutral, and green being the ground. I'm in Canada, so this is based on North American standards, but from what I understand, it should be usable in other parts of the world. But that's up to you to decide. I'm no electrician, so don't do what I do, and don't take my advice. The first of these is the shore power plug that will be on the exterior side of the van. It probably doesn't need much of an introduction. I'll be wiring a male plug to connect to the female end of the shore power plug. Second is the inverter power plug, which I'll be hardwiring in a male plug as well, so it can plug right into the inverter. Third is the shore-only power plug, which will host the AC/DC charger, but can also have other items plugged in like an engine block heater, an electric air conditioner, or even an electric interior heater. This allows you to have items that wouldn't make sense to run on your house battery or through your inverter, but would be handy if you often plug into shore power. In this case, it will automatically start charging the batteries the moment you plug into shore power, but it won't power the charger from the inverter to avoid a wasteful electricity loop. I'll be using a standard GFCI wall plug for this. And fourth is the switched power, which will power anything inside the van like your laptop or hairdryer. When you plug it in, the switch between the inverter and shore power is automatic, so there's no interruption experienced by your devices. You'll also notice the breaker on the hot wire coming from the shore power connection. This protects your electrics from irregularities in the shore power side, as well as protects the shore power connection should there be a fault in your van electrical. This is a bare minimum. Many will also add breakers onto other legs, like between the inverter and the relay, and between the switched power plugs in the relay. I'm planning to use GFCI plugs in the van, so I'll be using the GFCI functionality to act like a breaker. That might not be the way they are intended to be used, so again, make your own decisions. We touched on the hot and neutral systems, so let's touch on the grounds, which all lead out the shore power plug. I'm not an electrician, but I'd probably avoid connecting this ground to your chassis like you might with a DC wiring, unless you also have a ground strap under your van. Otherwise, you might become that ground strap when you touch your van if there's a fault. Alright, now is when it gets real. AC power usually comes from the inverter to 2 and 7, then gets routed through 3 and 6 to the van switched power plugs. For the days when shore power is plugged in, a few things happen all at once, but I'm going to slow it down for you. First, the shore power only plugs are energized because they're directly connected and will activate anything that you have connected to that plug, like the AC to DC charger. At the same time, power is sent to the normally open 4 and 5, ready to supply the switched 3 and 6 when the switch flips, which takes us to the coil that was also just energized at 1 and 8, triggering the switch leads from 3 and 6 to move from taking electricity from your inverter on contacts 2 and 7 to taking energy on contacts 4 and 5. In the blink of an eye, you're now taking electricity from shore power, and the moment you unplug, the power draw flips back to your inverter. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, enough of the theory. Let's get to making it real.
Yep.
So in this box, we're going to put all of the controls for our shore power and our AC, including this breaker. Going to have it coming through this screen so you can flip it that way. We also have to fit 2 of these plugs in, and that makes this box really simple to use, because if you want to have shore power, you'll just plug into one. If you want to have the switched power, you'll plug into the other, and it'll literally just be one of these GFCI house plugs, so the system protects itself. That we don't need, because that's going to be going through the side there.
Well, it ain't pretty, but I guess it did the trick.
It'll clean up nice.
Heard that before.
A little off there and a little off there.
So is that cage done now? Like, and everything in it?
Pretty
Besides
much, yeah.
connecting it all up and stuff?
Yep. Yeah, wiring is really all that's left there.
And then what's the next big thing you have to do after that?
Really wiring, the plywood.
Yep.
Then it's the bed and cupboards. Because yeah, the flooring's easy. Perfect.
Yeah, do the other side? Oh no, never mind.
Yeah, I'm just doing these so I can tuck it in.
Yeah.
Actually, I might as well screw that in place while we have it open. So the box I bought for the electrical is probably a hair on the small side. I have to move this over just a hair to get things to fit right. Yeah, sometimes you gotta roll with the punches.
Is it just that you're pressing too hard?
So the problem with drilling through plastic is that it can crack very easily when the tips of the drill bit cut through. I did stage it with smaller bits, but I still got a bit of a crack. This will clean up nice enough. So essentially this relay allows shore power to not only come in through these connections, but it triggers this relay with these two connections. When that relay switches, it goes from the inverter power swapped to the shore power, and then this is what goes out to the outlets in the van. This relay then allows it to use the inverter when it's normally closed, and the normally open, which gets triggered when it's energized from shore power, then causes this to close, causing the power to go this route instead of this route. So then as soon as you connect it, this powers everything inside the van. So that is this in a nutshell. This is a little more simplistic of a drawing. It shows the interior heat as well as the block heater, which you can plug in, and that goes straight through to shore power. This is the box we're building right here that allows it to switch between shore power and the inverter. And then it allows there to be two different outlets. One that only turns on when you have shore power, the other one that is on both from the inverter or from shore power. This allows us to plug the battery charger in, which we don't want the inverter to supply. We only want shore power. So when we want to either condition the batteries or charge them from shore power, all we have to do is plug in. It automatically connects the charger. It automatically switches everything on the interior to be powered off of shore power. So the other thing I haven't done yet is I've got to put this breaker in. This is what protects the shore power from the van. It's going to sit in this box right here. I need to just drill a hole and it will sit down inside. This box probably should have been about an inch or two wider, but everything will fit. It's just going to be really cozy in there, and it should never really generate any significant heat. This is electrical rated as well. Everything in here is at most 15 to 20 amps. That amount of electricity generally doesn't do too much for heat trouble. Anyways, now I get to drilling. So there it is. That is it. This breaker will protect directly from shore power. Next, both of these have GFCI plugs, so they have their own resettable breakers inside of them. So between the three of those, everything should be protected. Now it's just a matter of finishing up the wiring, and then this is complete. I was just trying to see, before I crimp it, I want to make sure it's oriented the way I want. So everything is hooked up and just about ready to test. All I need to do now is make a jumper from the relay coil to the shore power input, and that will allow it to energize the minute it connects. We're gonna hook this up now and test it. I did do a quick test in the box. The box works well. Everything triggers the way it should. This will be the acid test to tell us whether when you plug in shore power to the van, these start charging. We'll see everything working. So I'll get this finished up and we'll show you the test. So in a nutshell, this box controls everything. This is where the shore power will come in. This is where the inverter comes in. This is where you plug in anything you want to run only when shore power is plugged in. For instance, the 12-volt battery charger that charges our leisure batteries. You want this to be shore only so that when you turn on your inverter, you're not then running your charger, which is charging your batteries, and you cause a loop that really is just gonna drag your batteries down. This side is for what you want to turn on when it's either the inverter or shore power. So if you're plugged in, say you're running your laptop and you go and plug into shore power, you want your laptop to still be powered on both circuits. So this one allows it to switch with this relay between the two. As soon as you plug in shore power, it automatically turns off the inverter, disconnects the inverter, and runs off of the shore power. This box will go in here. Essentially, shore power comes in right here. Probably cut this down. So we still have to tuck those cords around. This then will go to the inverter over there. Here we go. And then I have to get the cord for the charger, shore only. Well, I still have to tidy cords up. Then this will be what goes to the plugs in the van. We're ready to test everything. So let's put some electricity into it. I'm gonna go get something we can use for a load and we'll go from there.
A few moments later.
Okay, so our load is a tiki lamp. We're gonna plug it into the mixed side. This is what will be going to the internal outlets inside the van, and the switch is turned on. This one here goes to the shore power plug, which we'll show you in a moment as we plug it in. This one here goes to the inverter. This side here goes to the charger, which we will see turn on when we plug in shore power. Let's start by testing the shore power circuit. The inverter is not on, so this is not lit. I'm gonna plug in shore power and we'll watch the relay go. We'll see this light come on and we'll watch the charger come and see if it senses the batteries properly. And if that's good, then we'll unplug it, test the inverter. Then if the inverter is all working, then we'll test plugging in the shore power to see if it switches over. Yeah, well, let's start with shore power. B-roll.
Okay.
Okay, so we now know that the shore power works as expected. The shore power only line does what it's supposed to do. The shore power / inverter line works on shore power. Now we're going to test it on the inverter power. So I'm going to flip on the inverter and the light should come on. Ping, perfect. So there it goes. Now we know the inverter is working properly. What we have to do now is plug in shore power and see if it switches over the way we expect. Let's go give that a try. Perfect, there it goes. So you can see a quick break when it switches over, but it's less than a fraction of a second. I think it loses like 1 or 2 hertz. So most electronics won't even notice. The shore power switch works great. We built it for less than $100 and it does it automatically. So you don't even have to think about anything. You just plug straight into shore power. Doesn't matter what's running or what's not running. You want to charge your batteries or condition your batteries, which is good to do a couple times a year. All you have to do is just plug it in and away you go. I think at this point though, I'm going to go and unplug shore power so you can watch this as I unplug and you'll see the charger turn off while the light stays on. So I'll go do that now. Okay, ready?
1 sec. Okay.
Okay,